Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session, The Industry Challenges and Career Opportunities Beyond COVID-19. We'll just be waiting for a few more attendees to be joining us today, and we'll be starting in a few short minutes. So thank you for joining us, and we'll be commencing shortly. For everyone joining us, we just launched a quick poll just to see where you're joining us from today. We understand that we have a few attendees from all around the world. So while we're waiting for the last few attendees to be joining us, if you could please answer the quick poll, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you everyone for joining us for the session today. My name is Vince Lam. I'm the Faculty Liaison Assistant for the University of Sydney Business School. And tonight we'll be joined by our academics from the business school. So we have Dr Angelo Aspris from the discipline of finance, and also Dr Boris Choy, Senior Lecturer in the discipline of business analytics. So today we'll be going through a few things. So for the agenda tonight, we'll be firstly covering off why you should be studying postgraduate business at the University of Sydney Business School. Then we'll be covering off the industry challenges and career opportunities beyond COVID-19. So particularly why you should study finance and why you should study business analytics, followed by a live Q&A at the end of today's session. So firstly, to start off, why should you study postgraduate business at the University of Sydney? Now, there's a few reasons for this. First of all, we are world leaders. We are very proud of our reputation and rankings. Just to name a few, we are ranked first in Australia and second in the world in the Times Higher Education Impact Rankings 2020. And these are rankings based off the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And we also ranked first in Australia and fourth in the world when it comes to graduate employability. These are just rankings to show the testament of the quality of teaching that we offer here at the University of Sydney Business School. And this also shows the work of our world-renowned academics. Building on from that, we are ranked top 1% when it comes to in terms of top 1% of business schools all around the world. We are one of the only business schools across Australia to hold the triple accreditation, and the only business school in Australia to hold the triple accreditation in addition to the SEMS membership. So SEMS membership is essentially the Global Alliance in Management Education. And in addition to that, we also do hold the AACSB accreditation, the AMBA accreditation, and also the EQUIS accreditation. In terms of some of our offerings, today we'll be covering off business analytics and finance. These are disciplines and specializations offered under our Master of Commerce program. So Master of Commerce is co-designed with industry and it does feature 8 future-focused specializations. So why study Master of Commerce at the University of Sydney Business School? So a few reasons for this is so that students can develop a global and responsible adaptive mindset. And this is a feature of our new core units as part of this program. We do also offer students research and global exchange pathways, such as opportunities for you to study abroad at world reputable universities, in addition to our partnerships with industry. Building on from that, when it comes to partnerships with industry, students do have the opportunity to gain real-world experience with industry partners as part of our industry placement program. Building on from that, students do have access to our award-winning careers and employability office. So we are one of the only universities in Australia to have its dedicated careers office, and students do have the opportunity to access our Job Smart program. It's an award-winning program dedicated for international students at the business school. Now, as I mentioned earlier on, with the Master of Commerce, we do have 8 future-focused specializations, them including accounting, digital business, global logistics, along with economics. And today we'll be focusing specifically on finance and data analytics for business, which will be delivered by our academics later today. So just to highlight, so today in terms of our webinar, we'll be covering the industry challenges and the career opportunities more specific in finance and data analytics. And firstly, I'll pass it off to Angelo, who will be talking about finance. And then later on in the session, we'll be having Boris, who will be talking about data analytics for business. So over to you, Angelo.
Thanks, Vince. And I just want to extend a warm welcome to everybody here that's given up their time to be with us here today. So what I want to do today is I want to talk to everyone about why study finance. More specifically, why study finance at the University of Sydney. Now, in this, there are some natural questions that follow. What are the competitive advantages of this education degree? And what are the opportunities for you to move into following a degree in this space? So here's the agenda of my brief discussion with you here today. I want to quickly introduce myself, obviously, before talking to you a little bit about finance. Now, this will be a discussion at a reasonably high level to broadly describe how broad and deep the world of finance is. I'm then going to move into talking about some of the challenges and opportunities present in the current landscape before just touching on a few alumni stories, mainly to illustrate these previous points. So firstly, my name is Dr Angelo Aspris, and I've been with the University of Sydney's Business School for just over 10 years now. My specializations lie mainly in financial markets, so equities markets, fixed income markets, commodities, and recently I've delved into cryptocurrencies. And I teach both in the undergraduate, postgraduate, and management spaces. My research is industry linked, and it often addresses timely and relevant issues, and they're typically partnered with regulators, exchanges, and also listed companies. I'm also the CFA Institute representative for the university, and so I'm in charge of things like curriculum design and scholarships. So I want to start talking simply about, firstly, what finance is. Finance is a pretty elusive construct, and by no means does the definition here on this slide provide you with the subtleties and the nuances of finance that grow by the day. Finance is about the circulation of money. Money is capital, and capital is invested. And that sort of typically summarizes what finance is about. Financing propositions and assembling frameworks that guide investment decisions. And it's these decisions that result in job creation. And when you successfully deploy this capital, it results in the accumulation of additional capital. Now, finance extends beyond just corporate finance. It extends to the monetary banking system. It extends to the real estate market. It extends to commodity markets and almost every industry or sector in the economy. Can we just go to slide 5 there, Vince? Thanks. So finance centers around a proposition of risk versus return. So in this particular example that I've provided you here with, I'll just read through it. It says a friend recommends investing in Bitcoin in the last quarter. The price has risen 20% And this compares to a paltry 1% that you would have earned in your savings account. Now, the question that I've provided you here with today is, should you invest? Well, the following example suggests that users missing out by neglecting to allocate their investment appropriately, because you're sacrificing a 20% return in order to earn a 1% return. But my inclusion of this question here today in this slide is not to provide you with an answer to this particular question as to whether you should have invested in Bitcoin or not, but rather to explain what studying finance means for your future decision making. An earnest student of finance, for example, would want to know the risk characteristics that are associated with an investment, both with regard to both the savings account and with the investment in Bitcoin. They'd want to know what transaction costs look like across the two groups, whether there was any diversification benefits, what would be the effect of any regulatory risks, and they would want to know how the risk preferences of the individual would guide the investment in this space. And only then can you begin to answer which represents the best opportunity. So in studying finance, you're trying to understand the known knowns, the known unknowns, and also most importantly, the unknown unknowns. Finance is, just can we go to the next slide there, Vince? Finance is a complex network of ideas. It's also more than just an idea because it's a set of formulas, it's a set of relationships, it's a set of regulations, amongst other things. For me, what we're trying to do when we study finance is to simplify it by adding structure around some very basic questions. Those questions include, how do you identify investment opportunities? How do you manage all your capital appropriately? How do you deal with time-varying risks and uncertainties? How do you, for example, select rationally between competing opportunities? And finally, and a very important question is, how do you communicate effectively so as to maximize your chances of succeeding in this world of finance? These are all the things that we look at in finance, and we try to address them within a framework that people can understand and can communicate freely with each other, knowing how to take on this world of finance. Next slide there, Vince. Now, I've included cheekily this Oscar Wilde quote, and many of you have seen this before, and I'll just read through it. It says that nowadays people know the price of everything and the value of nothing. I see this quote more as an opportunity than I do a criticism of the system. For me, studying finance is about giving yourself the opportunity to delve into problems so as to develop a learned view of the world, to develop a worldly view of the mechanics of the system. What I'm advocating here for you tonight is that specialization is very important. Specialization gives you the foundation for insights that would have never been afforded to you by just simply taking a cursory reading of the material. Think about it like this. A house with a foundation is going to stand still. It's going to stand the test of time. A house without a foundation gets washed out every time a storm hits. So don't be the washed up house, because those waves are all too frequent in the real world. Next slide, Evans. So here is a chart. It's a chart of the stock market's performance over the last 12 months. This is the Australian market, but I could have replicated this chart for any market and the pattern would have still been the same. Now, what does it reveal? It reveals firstly, there's a heck of a lot of volatility in the markets, in financial markets over the last 12 months, right? Smack bang in the middle of that graph, you can see is when COVID took a grip on financial markets. And you can see at the lowest point of this graph, what's actually a little bit hard to see, but at the lowest point in this graph, financial markets around the world lost about 1/3 of their value. And it's kind of unprecedented that markets would lose so much of their value in such a short space of time. Now, there's no doubt that COVID has disrupted our daily lives, and markets clearly aren't immune from such responses. But interestingly, I've included the graph all the way to most recently a few weeks ago for the simple reason that you can see that in this graph, markets have bounced back from these historical lows. But why? Was COVID just a cold that the financial markets caught and then just got over it very quickly? Or is there a change in gears out of reverse into fourth gear And is that illustrative of the madness of markets? Studying finance gives you the opportunity to debate such views, and as practitioners, effectively address issues around risk management and the opportunities for investment. Next slide there, Vince. So here's my take on a range of issues, a range of areas in the world of finance, and that will prosper from the disruption of finance. You can see that I've tried to group them into distinct categories, so to get you to see how broad and impactful finance can be. My list starts with funds management, which is just about how capital is effectively managed to maximize a return, specifically within reasonable tolerance levels. I think what we're going to see in the future, and in the not too distant future, is expanded definitions of risk. Many fund managers during this COVID period were caught short-handed with paltry appraisals of risk. And better understanding what risk and uncertainty looks like is going to be a significant source of value moving forward. In terms of, let's say, if we take capital management, we've seen an incredible number of capital raisings over the last 6 months. All this means is that companies have fervently been raising lots of money in financial markets. They've been asking shareholders to contribute more capital. And understanding when to raise, how much to raise, what is an appropriate discount rate when you're issuing this new capital, what to allocate that capital for in terms of investment purposes. These are all things that are not particularly well understood by management teams. So being able to provide empirically supported evidence to these questions can result in billions of dollars worth of savings for shareholders. And this is a very lucrative area for you to step into. You can see that I've outlined red flags on this slide. And my comment here is particularly around the fake economy that has really developed because of this myriad of government-led protections during this time. Most countries around the world have tried to support businesses in light of the pandemic around us. And this has created this fake economy, but many of the protections that are associated with COVID will disappear shortly. Now, how will markets react? How will individuals react? How will businesses react to the disappearance of these protections? These are questions that will become very important to entertain very shortly. Next slide there, Vince. So where will finance lead you? Well, I like to think of finance as a universal transactional currency. It doesn't matter where you go in the world, it's language that everyone understands. Finance pervades the retail, the institutional, the government, and the non-for-profit sectors, meaning that irrespective of where you think you'll place, there is a finance role in just about every arm of society. Furthermore, finance gives you the ability to work for yourself, represent others and their investments through these sort of custodian relationships, take on research roles, or any combination of these. So the possibilities for you in the world of finance are endless. Next slide, David. Thanks. So this slide isn't covering any new territory, but rather it's just designed to basically summarize more aptly what you'd be getting yourself into by opening the door to finance. It's a dynamic industry with excellent career opportunities and real possibilities. Now, I want to finish my talk just by touching on a number of different alumni stories, just to show you what I mean by opportunities. Opportunities that are brought out by an investment in your finance education. I'll start off with Nick Molnar, who is a recent graduate from the University of Sydney. Nick majored in finance. Nick is the founder and the CEO of Afterpay, which is one of Australia's fastest growing companies. It has a market capitalization of around $20 billion. Now, Afterpay is a credit provider who basically kicked off an innovative payments system that's geared at Gen Z individuals. Basically what Nick did was he took an idea, and the idea of lay-by, and the idea of lay-by was known to many previous generations. And what Nick basically did was to take this idea of lay-by and make it work for the current society. He made it work in such a way whereby now there are these copycat firms that are effectively trying to emulate the success that Afterpay has enjoyed. Now, Nick studied mergers and acquisitions and he studied financial valuations at uni. And then he took up an internship shortly after university to work at a private equity firm. And he credits, and he has credited the success that he has had to not only the investment in the education, but also the roles that he had just out of university in the finance space. So you can see here how we've taken the study of finance, applied it to a problem in society, found a solution that works with a generation of individuals that have seen things like the credit space provided by banks as something that is not to their liking, in order to develop a business idea that has become rather successful. And Afterpay has gone on to expand into the US, the UK, and it's also expanding in other areas around the world. Go next slide there, Vince. So another one of my former students, Dean Jones, is the CEO and the co-founder of a company called Glam Corner. Now you can see here, I haven't gone in terms of alumni stories with people that work in pure finance, like commercial investment banks, because what I wanted to do is highlight the reach of opportunities that are brought up by an education in finance. Yes, an education in finance will take you to an investment bank, it'll take you to a commercial bank, but there are these opportunities in other spaces, in other sectors and industries that I'm trying to highlight. I'm trying to highlight both the breadth and the depth of an education in this space. In saying this, Dean worked as an associate at Deutsche Bank in their investment banking team for several years before he went on to launch Glam Corner with his wife, Audrey. And so they launched this business in 2012. And again, framing this in terms of a problem, Glam Corner identified a problem that it thought it could reasonably solve. And that problem was that it was really expensive for women with busy social lives to maintain a wardrobe. So rather than buy everything, they thought that they could simply solve the problem by introducing renting dresses. Now, Dean, having a finance background, his wife also shares a finance background, is able to make a solution work. Now, there are plenty of solutions to problems, but the way that they make a solution work is to ensure that the economics stack up. Because at the end of the day, if the economics don't stack up, you haven't got a successful business. Now, my last slide is for one of my current students, Brendan Ma, who will be a graduate of the Bachelor of Commerce and Law degree shortly. And Brendan is probably one of the most impressive resumes that you'll ever see at his age. And his ability to handle such a heavy workload even amazes me. Now, Brendan's passions revolve around finding solutions for indebted developing nations. And his board positions with the UN, for example, and as a lead negotiator at the UN Youth Summit, shows what doors can open for you when you both have ambition and ability. And so, you know, if you have both ambition and you have ability, then this is certainly a program for you, because we will continue to push you to open up these new opportunities. So just onto the next slide there, Vince. I recognize that my time is running out. So where will finance lead you to post-COVID-19? Now, as I mentioned before, I think for a while, we've lived in a society where anyone with anything to say was deemed an expert. And this generally persists until you get some kind of rude shock that inserts uncertainty into your life. And that rude shock has come. That rude shock was COVID-19. And being able to step into a position with a mindset of where is the problem and how do I go about constructing a solution that is in the best interest of stakeholders by being able to critically analyze and evaluate risks will be something that employers will be seeking heavily. So now is the time to step up. Now's the time to challenge yourself and create the foundations that will render you an expert for the remainder of your career. And if you want to make that investment, then we're here to effectively open those doors and lead you down that track. Now, in the final slide, my final slide at least, there's a list here of our electives when studying finance. Now, I've been involved in a number of these, and I'm happy to discuss these with anyone that requires this at a later stage. You can see there's everything there from financial markets and institutions to asset pricing, to mergers and acquisitions, corporate valuations, and risk management. So it is a deep but also broad program to cater for people's interests. So thanks for your time today, and best of luck with your future endeavors. I'll hand over now to Boris. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Angelo, and welcome everyone. I'm Boris Choy. I'm a senior lecturer in the business analytics. I joined the university in 2008 in the discipline of business, in the discipline of operation management and econometrics. Before it was renamed as the discipline of business analytics in 2012. I'm a qualified statistician in the business school, and my research interest is on statistical modeling and forecasting using Bayesian computational techniques. And the two main areas of my research interest are the actuarial studies or non-life insurance, and also financial econometrics. I have taught a number of courses at the undergraduate and postgraduate levels, in particular the quantitative methods for business, which is one of the most popular Master of Commerce foundation units. Yeah, first of all, I need to talk about data. Every day when you go to work or go to university, you need to take a transportation. You can either ride a car, a bicycle, a motorbike, or you take a public transportation. You generate data, okay? Let's talk about something related to finance, okay? You may need to make a investment decision. You need to analyze data, financial data, or you want to invest in your money into Apple or to Google, Tencent, etc. You need to analyze their financial data before you make the decision. The data appears in many different forms. They can be numbers, okay, just like the financial returns. They can be characters, for example, gender, male, female, they are denoted by M and F. They can be symbols, they can be pictures. For example, you take a photo and you have the data, which can be generated from the pixels in the picture. And it can also be maps, okay? For example, a map that you, a satellite map that you can use to analyze what are there in a particular spot. Now, data can be summarized in many different ways. One of them is a graph. You can use a graphical presentation of the data. You can also present the data using a table or a histogram, etc., or even a number. That's the, for example, the average of the values. Okay. Now, data are very important because they contain many important information that we are interested. Okay. Now, by understanding the data, usually we use statistical method to build a model. Okay, to build a model for the data. Once we build a good model, we will use this model to forecast what may happen in the future. And we can also use this model to help us make good business decisions. Business analytics refers to techniques and tools that we use to analyze the data. Usually, these tools and techniques include the statistical modeling, models and other techniques. Okay. Now, what we want to do is to extract useful information from the data, and this part is very, very important. Okay. The data can be massive and they can contain some noise. So first of all, we need to clean the data, and sometimes we need to categorize the data before we use them. For example, if we are interested in the data that generate from male, then we need to just look at data for male. Okay. Now, what we need to do next is to build a model, statistical model. Okay, and then use the techniques and tools to analyze data in order to gain insight of the business. We need the data to help us make good business decisions. Why? We want our business to increase productivity, and more importantly, is to make bigger profits. Next. Now, before you do business analytics, you can consider business analytics to be a black box. And what you have are data and some business processes. Okay. Now, these two inputs, okay, allow us to use the business analytics tools and techniques to unlock the information hidden in the data. Once we understand the data and build a model for the data, we shall be able to do forecasting, okay? And we can use the model to make good decision makings. At the end of the day, we want to improve our business planning and strategy. Next. Statistics is a well-developed discipline for analyzed data. There are many statistical models that are very useful for different types of data. They are continuous type data, they are discrete type data, and we need to use different statistical models to analyze the data. And these models can help us to do classification, forecasting, and more. Okay, maybe you are familiar with some of the terminology in statistics, such as regression, normal distribution, parameters, standard deviation, histogram, maximum probability, sampling, etc., etc. Next. However, since year 2000, or when we enter to the 21st century, data are generated every single second, and they are massive. Every time when you use your social media in Facebook, WeChat, YouTube, whatever, or you do online shopping on eBay, Amazon, Taobao, etc., we generate data. Okay, we generate data. At the present moment, the data storage capacity is around 50 zettabytes. What is that? It's 50,000 billion bytes. And within the next 5 years, this storage will increase by another 250%. Next. Now, every time when we use an app or when we browse the internet for whatever purposes, we shop online, we generate data for businesses. And we know that they are going to use our data, and we agreed that they can use it before we can use the app. And the businesses know what we are interested in. They know our habits. They know our preferences. Why? They need to know us better in order to provide us tailor-made products and services. This is all about personalization. Next. Now, let's take an example, telematics and car insurance. If you are a safe driver, I'm sorry to tell you that you are subsidizing unsafe drivers when you pay your premium. Personalization in car insurance is that, for example, a driver can download an app, Amy, which is a car insurance company in Australia. A couple of years ago, they have an app, safety driver app, that use GPS technology to record the way a driver performs in their driving behaviors. Okay, this app will record not just the length of a trip, the speed of driving, okay, acceleration, deceleration, braking, whether the driver is fatigued or whether the driver is using a mobile phone while driving. Okay, now it will come up with a single score for a driver. Higher score means that the driver is safer. Okay, so the insurance company can reward you as a safe driver a discount on the premium. And this app aims to not just reward the safe drivers, it also aims to reduce the car accidents. This is just an example of using big data. Next. Now, statistics is the foundation of data analysis. There are many statistical models that we can use for different types of data, and then we can use the data, we can use the models for classification, for prediction, etc. However, as we enter to the 21st century, we have big data. Okay, this creates some problems for statisticians. We are lucky that we have the contribution from computer scientists. Okay, by working together with computer scientists, we come up with many different methods, machine learning methods, predictive analytics, advanced analytics, data science, regression, K-mean decision tree optimization, time series correlation, etc. All these methods to analyze big data. Next. In 2020, we suffer from COVID-19, and this changed our life. Next. In Australia, the Department of Health reports the number of cases, total number of cases up to date, and the total number of deaths, and how many patients are still in hospital. Okay, we can categorize, we can classify the data into different groups and different gender, and we can see whether the COVID-19 have different impacts to different age group and different gender. And it's very popular that the number of cases reported on a daily basis is given by a graph that we have seen on the top graph at the middle panel. This graph is very informative. Once we hit the highest points, it's very likely that there is the peak of the pandemic, and it will start, the number of cases will start to drop. And in this graph, we can see that in Australia, we have the second wave. In some countries, there are more than second wave. They may have the third wave. Now, one thing I need to point out here is that this graph is irrelevant to statistical or probability distributions. If you're familiar with a normal distribution, this graph is not a normal distribution. Okay, it just gives you the information about the daily cases. Okay, in order to perform statistical analysis, you need to work on the data and then use an appropriate statistical model to analyze data before you can do forecasting. Next. Globally, we can see the number of cases in different countries. And here we can see that some countries have a very big dot, big circle. Big circle means that there are more cases, okay? And in Australia, we're quite lucky that we have relatively small number of cases. And at the moment, the largest three countries which has the most cases are the US, Brazil, and India. Next. Now we have been, there has been a lot of impacts on our daily life. For example, entertainment. Before COVID, we went to cinema very often. During COVID, all the cinemas were empty. In the future, we will spend more time on videos in YouTube, TikTok, or we will watch movies on Apple TV, Foxtel. At the same time, we will also go to the cinema, but you don't expect to have too many people in the cinema, but it's a different experience. Next. On Thursday and Fridays after work, we always go to bars and pubs, okay, and to have drinks with our colleagues. During the pandemic, all these bars and restaurants, they were closed, okay. Probably in the future, we may need to wear a face mask when we go to bars and pubs. Next. Food and drink, we always go to our beloved restaurants for meals. In the future, we will rely more on food delivery and also fresh produce delivery to our home, to our doorstep. At the same time, we can still go to the restaurants. Next. Now, I want to talk about data analytics, which is related to finance. Stock market performance. Traditional business such as banking, Commonwealth Bank is one of the Australia's biggest bank. Okay, and you can see the performance of the stock markets during the stock price during the pandemic is similar to the one that Angelo's present. Okay, at the beginning of the pandemic, the stock price of Commonwealth Bank, okay, dropped significantly, and then it recovered in the following months. However, during the pandemic, e-commerce booms. Kogan is an online shop, and you can see that the stock price picked up by at least 100% in the last few months. Next. Another example is about investment. You know Bitcoin? You may not know that Bitcoin was only 4 cents in 2010. And we look at the price of Bitcoin from 2010 to 2013. And suppose that you need to make a decision, investment decision. When the price jumps to about $5, okay, at the end of February 2010, okay, around 2010 or early 2011, when the price is about $4 or $5, will you invest? Okay, the price has already jumped by over 100 times. Will you invest? This is a decision that you need to make. If you miss this chance, okay, in the next few months, the price reached almost $40. Okay, if you miss this chance, that's fine. Okay, you may have other chances. Once a price reach a peak, it will drop. And after the adjustment for another 2 years, another decision point. Okay, at the beginning of 2013, the price is about $20 US dollars. Will you invest? Okay, if you miss this chance, the price will jump to $88, which is another 300% profit within just a few months. Okay, this is in March of 2013. What happened today? Next. Today, Bitcoin is worth over 10,000 US dollar. Okay, say let's go back to 2017. We want to make the same decision. When Bitcoin was $2,000, will you invest your money? If yes, you are lucky. Okay, within the next few months, it jumped from $2,000 to $20,000, and you make a good profit. However, if you invest in Bitcoin in early 2018 at around $20,000, you lost by about 50%, because during the adjustment in the last 3 years, Bitcoin is now worth about 10,000 US dollar. So it depends when you make a decision, you need to analyze the data before you make a good investment decision. The final word here is that if you invest, okay, $100 in Bitcoin in 2010, today you have $75 million and you don't have to work. Next. Now, in 2009, the Google chief economist said something about the statistician. Okay, she said that I kept saying that the sexy job in the next 10 years will be statistician. People think I'm joking, but who would have guessed that computer engineers would have been the sexy job of the 90s? Now, this statement is correct, but not 100% correct, okay? Statisticians is a profession. Unfortunately, they are not highly paid, okay? I'm a statistician working in the business school. I call myself an econometrician before we rename as the discipline of business analytics. Today, I call myself a business analyst, okay, or academic. Now, use a different title, you make different money, okay? So I will give you some examples later about the job title that business analytics specialization can lead you to. Next. Now, the role of business analyst. Now, business analysts help business implement technology solutions in a cost-effective way. Okay, they help corporations to make good decisions based on data analysis. Okay, based on data analysis. Now, the corporations and the business will know what their customers need in order to provide new products, new service to their customers in order to increase their profits. Next. Now here, there are some jobs that are available for graduates in business analytics, okay? And I also did some job for data scientists. Now, data science to me is more technical, okay? It's more suitable for graduates from computer science, okay? They use different similar technique, but they will be better in programming, okay? Now, you, as a student who are going to do business analytics or the Master of Commerce, specialized in business analytics, you aim to use your business knowledge, okay, and your specialization in business analytics to make good business decision, and then you accelerate in your business career. So you can be a business analyst, you can be an academic researcher, you can be a consultant, you can be the financial analyst. It depends on whether you have another specialization in finance or not. You can be a risk manager or related to finance. You can be a project manager, etc. Of course, you can be a CAO or a CIO. Next. Now, where you can find our graduates? Our graduates are everywhere. Okay, they work for governments in Australia or in other countries. Okay, they work for the international organizations such as Google, Citibank, Commonwealth Bank in Australia, Morgan Stanley, etc. Of course, Tencent and also other technology companies in the US, in Europe, and also in China. Next. Now, next year, we will have new units available for students who specialize in data analytics. Here, I list some of them, and they will have extra foundation units for business, for data analytics students. and there are extra, I think about extra 8 new units, senior units for business data analytics. Next. Now, in order to do data analytics specialization, you need to have good business knowledge, and you need to have strong analytics skills and reasonable programming skills. Okay, you don't need to have advanced or very good programming skills, because you're not doing data you're not going to be a data scientist. Okay, so are you ready to take the challenge in the data analytics and become one of the future leaders in business? Next. Thank you very much, and we welcome questions. Okay, we have a question here. Master of Data Analytics. We don't have a Master of Data Analytics. We have Master of Commerce, and there are 8 specializations, and Data Analytics is one of the analytics, one of the specializations. Okay.
Boris,
Yes.
I might just get your view then on how do you think studying online compares to an in-class teaching? Happy to provide my perspective, but how have you found studying or at least teaching this semester online as compared to previous semesters? Do you want to provide a view on that?
Of this semester and last semester?
Yeah, just a comparison between the online blended space and the in-class space. Okay,
actually last semester was also online, right? So if we compare with 2019, yeah, I can share with everyone about the experience. I was the coordinator of a big unit, foundation unit in statistics. And I have 1,000 students. In the past, the students enjoy going to the tutorial, the tutorial classes, the lectures. During the pandemic, we shift everything online. In semester 1, in last semester, students were supported by a very good teaching team under my leadership. And basically, there was no big disadvantage to students. And actually, some students enjoy doing the online study rather than face-to-face. But for many others, they look forward to attending online lectures and tutorials. And this semester, the lectures are delivered online, but some of the tutorial classes are face-to-face.
Yeah, I think I would share the same experience just to this question. You know, I think every individual is different. And so saying, well, the online space may not be as effective as the in-person space is possibly a little bit of a generalization. I think one of the nice things about COVID has been the ability to innovate and develop material in such a way whereby it specifically targets each and every individual, which is not something that you'd be able to do in the classroom where you have 300 students in front of you. So being able to tailor those solutions, being able to create material that students can watch the moment they get out of bed and be able to rewatch it over and over again, and harness the power of I guess, the internet and different channels and different modes of communication is something that a lot of students have engaged really well with. And moving forward, post-COVID, yes, there will be a return to the classroom, but one of the nice things is that there'll be this sort of blended delivery, so that students can take advantage and be able to access material in real time. So I'll just taking another one of the questions here, and this is another question to you, Boris.
Yeah.
what data analytics tool does a person having no experience who's not good at math? So let's say someone with not a particularly good background in math, is there scope for them to study something like data analytics or business analytics?
It may be quite challenging for some of the students, but in business and analytics, when the students do the first statistic units, we have a very good support, and this support helps students to build their confidence in quantitative methods. So if they can perform well in this unit, they should have confidence to continue these specializations in business and in data analytics. Okay.
Yeah.
If the students still struggle in the unit, it means that it's not suitable for them. And for example, students can do a specialization in accounting. At the same time, they can do some units in business analytics. Okay.
I thoroughly agree with that. I think, in this world, basically, there are people that do the data analytics, and there are people that understand and interpret and infer the information from that analysis. And so you can either be the person that understands the nitty-gritty and performs the analysis, or you can be the person that understands and is able to communicate it to others. And so, data analytics caters for both. It caters for those that want to be the external communicators, or those that want to perform the analysis.
It's not necessary to know everything about data analytics. Okay, you need some.
Neither do you, and neither do I, and no one will ever know the everything of data analytics.
Yes.
There's a question here that says, how do you see data analytics in the public sector compliance and fraud detection?
Oh yeah, this is quite useful. This year, I supervise a student in accounting, and she's working on statistical models to detect fraud, something like that. Yes. There are researchers working on this area. They use different models, and I'm not an expert in this area, so I can't comment too much.
Right. Okay, that's fine. A student says that they're currently doing an MBA from UTS, but due to COVID, they've had to defer. They're now contemplating a Master of Commerce with Finance Analytics, and they're wondering whether or not that represents a good option. I guess I'll just start with I think they're exceptional options. But in saying that, whether you study finance analytics or analytics accounting, or finance accounting, or finance marketing, I think they're all exceptional options, because they all work into each other. We live in a world of networks, and so anything that you can compile to give you a better understanding of the world around you is clearly going to be something that's useful. Something that the user or the attendee that's correctly pointed out is that an MBA is generally much more of a generalist degree, whereas the Master of Commerce provides you both with breadth and depth, which is really one of the exciting and why it's such a popular course. So, if you are looking for a depth of specialization, then the MCOM does provide you with that, and there are certain advantages with undertaking this course. Another question says here, do you see people coming from communications backgrounds into data analytics?
Probably. Now, actually, I would like to say that if students who do not hate numbers, okay, they can try to do data analytics. If you don't like numbers, basically we can't help, because you will struggle in understanding the data, even though they are presented in a graphical form or in a number. You are not interested, then it means that data analytics may not be suitable. But if you come from different background, you can try to do the first unit in quantitative methods. And after taking this unit, you learn a lot of statistical techniques. And at the same time, you can decide whether you're suitable to go to the more advanced data analytic units. And there are many of them. There are many data analytic units. Some of them are less mathematical, and some of them are more mathematical. And some of them are between two of them.
Yeah, there's a great book by Aswath Damodar, and it says that from a very young age, we tend to split up in terms of there are a class of people that choose to be numerous, that focus on the quantitative, and there's a class of us that choose to be storytellers. And so generally speaking, those successful people are people that are able to blend the numbers with the storytelling. And that's really what life is about. It's about trying to accommodate both the storytelling and the analysis and the effective analysis. Now, I think in just sort of following up what you've said there, Boris, right, most courses to a certain extent try to cater for the storytellers and the numerists. So for example, in finance, we would have courses, corporate finance, real estate economics, mergers and acquisitions. They'd all be very sort of storytelling like units, whereas things like risk management and advanced asset pricing and derivative pricing are things that are going to be more along the quantitative space. Now, these are all electives, and the student can feasibly choose to follow the storytelling path if that's where their strengths lie, as opposed to the quantitative path. And I imagine it's the same with all the other majors in the business degree, in the Master of Commerce degree.
Yeah, the MCOM program is famous for its flexibility. Students can choose different specializations, different units, etc. And in business analytics, although most of the units are quantitative, there are some of them are less quantitative. Something like operations management, they will be less quantitative.
Okay, a question directed at you, Boris. Boris, regarding students who have accounting background, how can an accountant benefit from data analytics and/or finance? Are they related in any way? What would the career prospects be for an accountant?
Yeah, it's very important. In accounting, there's a professional master of professional accounting offered by the business school, and they're under review, and new data analytics units are introduced in the program because they realize that it's so important. And students who graduate, in particular those students who graduate with a specialization in accounting and business analytics, they have 2 jobs in the Big 4 companies. They can join the Big 4 in the auditing side and also to the analytics side. Okay, that actually means that they have 2 opportunities if they want to join one of the Big 4 accounting firms. And it's very important to, so in accounting, there's so many data, there's so many financial ratios, okay? And accountants, if they have good quantitative background, they will be able to study the relationship between different ratios and also build a statistical model to link up their relationship. And they know how to forecast one ratio based on the other financial ratio.
All right, excellent. Yeah, that's a great response. I think one of the key points there, Boris, was that accountants have lots of data, and
yes.
And people in data analytics love data, and so it's a great combination to have where you can pair something that has a lot of data with models and techniques to analyze it and to be able to generate forecasts that effectively capture what is to come.
They can use they can build a model to study the chance that a company will be under financial stress. Okay.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
Basically, yeah. In finance, you can use something similar model.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a perfect marriage of all of these courses, isn't there? Okay, I've got an interesting question here. I'm a law graduate with 2 years of work experience. I want to transition into a business career. Now, this is a little bit beyond both our scope, I think, Boris, but maybe I'll start with this. Which degree, the Master of Management or the MCOM, would you recommend? Now, I'll give just a very superficial response to this, and Karen and Vince might be able to help us out a little bit later. And I've briefly taught in the Master of Management program. I taught a financial management elective. And what I will say about the Master of Management is that it is a program that provides depth about the different perspectives of management. It provides perspectives on the different areas of management, whether they be finance related, accounting related, supervision related, HR related. So it gives a sort of broad perspective of the management roles in society and the management roles in big end of business. It's a short degree that is geared at people that are moving straight into management, whereas the MCOM, as we've already mentioned before, is more about the specialization and the specialization of knowledge, the development of a foundation to which you can then go and build a career with. So that's my insight. It's a rather limited insight, as I mentioned. Boris, did you have anything that you might want to add to that?
I would say it depends on the student's interest. Law is a degree. At the same time, the participant can be maybe interested in finance or in management or in accounting. So he or she can choose an area that she's interested.
Yeah. All right. Lovely. All right. We seem to have gone through all the questions now, unless there's any other questions remaining. I think we may call it an evening. So we'll just leave the line open for another minute. If anybody has any questions, they can quickly throw them on. Otherwise, we'll call it a night.
I just saw, hi, Boris and Angelo and Karen. I just saw there's a question that just popped through about the Master of Commerce. Can we do 2 specializations? So just to clarify, there is the Master of Commerce, which is 1.5 years, and Master of Commerce Extension, which is the 2 years. So short answer is yes, you can do 2 specializations within the 2-year Master of Commerce Extension. But then because it's 1.5 years, the Master of Commerce, without the extension, the shorter program, you will be very hard pressed to be able to fit in 2 specializations. So I hope that answers the question that just came through. And yes, thank you for answering the question about the Master of Management and Master of Commerce. That was a very, very good answer, very expanded answer. And I think ultimately, normally when I get those type of questions, we will go back to the student and say exactly what you said, Boris. It really is what the students want to get out of the degree. Master of Management, more like a young person MBA. So if you come from a non-business background and you want just a generalist degree and get to know a little bit about every aspect of business, then that's a good program for you. Whereas if you do want to hone in on a particular area, let's say finance, then the Master of Commerce gives you that depth of knowledge as well as the flexibility to still do a little bit of capstone and core unit in different areas.
I think students enrolled to the 1.5 year program can also consider to do the 2 years after they complete a few units.
Yeah, I think if you join the 1.5 year and you want to extend to 2 years, I think that's always a possibility. But I think it also depends if you're international or domestic, because there might be visa and duration implication on that. Whereas the Master Management, there's definitely less flexibility because you won't be able to choose any electives. All the units are standardized, but then you do get the option if you choose the Master Management SEMS to go on the SEMS rotation, which is, you know, we rank #1 for SEMS. So very unique opportunity, only Sydney Uni offers in Australia. Another question just come through about evening classes. I'm afraid we don't offer the Master of Data Science within the business school. So if you want to check in with our colleague from the other faculty or just check our website, I can drop the link to you on our senior courses for that program. But unfortunately, we won't be able to comment on that because we don't offer that at the business school, which is today's session. Okay, so there's another question about specialization. I think, yeah, if you're interested to find out more about the Master of Commerce, again, I'll drop you a link. There's actually a Master of Commerce specialized webinar that we're running this Friday, and the program director, Associate Professor Teresa Davis, will be giving a talk on that. So perhaps if you want to join us on Friday evening, 6 o'clock, then we can answer those more in-depth questions about the program. Any other finance and data analytics question for Angelo and Boris before we let them go?
Yeah, there are 2 more, 3 more. Okay, one question is whether you need to select your specialization prior to the program. Yes, you need to elect a specialization, but in order to get a specialization, you need to meet the requirement. Usually, you need to complete about 5 to 6 units in order to get a specialization. Okay, so it depends on what units that you choose to take during the MCOM program. Okay, so you can change your specialization at any time. Another question is what data analytic tools a person can learn with no experience in the field. Now, basically, when you do data analytics, you start with basic statistical modeling and data analysis, okay? And some basic knowledge about probability. It's very important that people know about probability before they can do statistics, okay? If you don't have the statistics background, it doesn't matter. I would say about 25% of the MCOM students have no experience in statistics, okay? But we provide very good training and support in their first unit, and then students can see whether they are suitable to continue to do analytic units or not. Okay. The next question, what are some of the useful or important extracurricular activities organized by the business school? Angelo, do you have any comments on this?
Nothing that would be useful, but look, I think that is something that both Vincent and Karen would be able to address with a great amount of detail. So I wouldn't take my lack of response as being indicative of the lack of opportunities, because I do know that there's plenty of societies at the university that are there to support the individual and support the individual's education. So for me, I'm happy to leave that to Karen.
Yeah.
Yes, I think you pretty much summarized that. We don't have the time to go into all the different, clubs and society. There are a lot of business school affiliated one and subject affiliated one, like accounting and finance clubs. But obviously for this forum, it's a little bit tricky for us to go into. If you want to Google, or I'll quickly pop a link into our clubs and society, you can then click into it and have a look at, I think, over 150 clubs that we offer.
Mm-hmm. But they're the exchange programs that that students can participate, right?
Okay, so I don't think we have any other finance and business analytics question coming through. So thank you, Angelo and Boris, for your time and for hosting the session today, and for Vince as well for his support at the start of the event. So if there are no other questions, I think we might wrap up. And for those of you who are still with us, thank you for joining us as well. We'll be sending you an email with all the follow-up content, as well as a recording of today's session if you do want to rewatch or go through any of the content again. So thank you for joining, and we hope you have a good evening and stay safe. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.